Hey everyone, it's me again. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk about a practice that can help us overcome overthinking and become more stable and calm inside. It has to do with mindfulness and the way we relate to our thoughts and emotions. And it's actually not only good for our own inner stability, but also for relationships and communication. Our mind is a tumultuous place. One thought follows another thought. Thoughts contradict each other. Then we have thoughts about our thoughts. Should I be thinking this? Do I want to be thinking this? And all of this is accompanied by a range of emotions. The same thing can happen in conversations. We can easily get into an argument and then later ask ourselves, why did I get into that argument in the first place? And it can get to a point of just getting too much, of wanting a break from the work of processing thoughts. But if you've ever tried to turn your mind off, you know that that is not so easy. And there's different approaches we can take if we feel burdened by our thoughts and emotions. One way of categorizing these approaches is by seeing if they engage with the thought or not. Sorting through the mind versus taking a step back. One way of coping is by sorting through our mind, examining our thoughts, seeing how truthful and helpful they are, and then finding the perspective on a situation that is most helpful. This is an important approach. However, there is another approach that is less popular, but also really important and helpful. And that is, instead of arguing with our thoughts, taking a step back from them. So instead of stepping into the stream of our thoughts and then rummaging through them, this approach steps out of this river of our thoughts. The great advantage of this approach is that it decreases the busyness of the mind. When we rummage through our mind, we increase its activity. And if this is the only coping strategy we use, we can come to certain limitations in being able to find peace and inner calmness. For that, we need this other strategy of also being able to reduce the busyness of the mind, of letting it slow down. And that can be done with this approach and practice of taking a step back from our thoughts instead of rummaging through them. This is called taking on the observer's perspective. It can also be called detaching from thoughts or cognitive diffusion. I really like this term of taking on the observer's perspective. It captures it well, that instead of remaining within a river and being tossed around by all the waves and the current, we step out of the river and observe it flowing by. And in that way, we are still connected to our experience. We're not trying to suppress or negate our experience, but we're connected to it from the observer's perspective, from some distance. There's many ways we can practice this. I've talked about one before, emotional labeling. And today I want to talk about another strategy that you can use to practice this, taking on the observer's perspective. And it's something called non-reactivity. Non-reactivity. Left to its own devices, the mind is jumpy. Sometimes the mind is compared to a monkey because monkeys, they just jump around all the time. And in that way, the mind wastes a lot of energy by reacting to anything and everything that it perceives. Some things are just too unimportant, too untrue, or not helpful, and we don't have to react to them. But the mind, left to its own functioning, it'll just react to everything that we see, everything that we hear, everything that we notice inside of ourselves. It's just like if you hear a loud bang, probably you'll shrug, maybe look around where the sound came from, maybe say, and the mind is kind of like someone who is always reacting to every little thing, even if there was not a big bang. So the mind is going through life like this all the time. And in that way, we can really use up a lot of energy waste energy by reacting to all sorts of stuff that does not need any reaction. And yeah, we can become jumpy, freak out over stuff that doesn't need to be freaked out over. Not everything is something that needs to be reacted to. And non-reactivity means letting our experience just flow without reacting to it. Slowing down so that we can actually notice this space between something that happens inside or outside and my own reaction to it. And then being able to choose, do I want to react? And if yes, how? And here you can also see why this is also helpful for relationships and communication, because we can really radically change our life if we are more conscious of how we want to react or if we want to react at all. And it helps for our own energy management, because that way we can really save a lot of energy and become a lot more calm and stable inside if we can let thoughts and experiences and emotions just flow also. And reacting here doesn't only mean reacting in a way of engaging with the outside world, like talking with someone or moving an object from one room to another. Reacting can also mean inner reacting, and that's actually the main thing it means. And inner reacting can be things like judging our mind's activity, like trying to find out if a certain thought is good or bad, or trying to struggle with an emotion or experience, trying to push it away, trying to force it into non-existence. And non-reactivity means decreasing this unnecessary overactivity of the mind. So non-reactivity is really helpful for dealing with the tendency of the mind to be overactive. And it's not about not taking care of things that need to be taken care of. It's not about reacting to things that need a reaction. It's about becoming more aware of our spontaneous reactions to things and observing them, and then seeing which ones are important enough to us so that we want to follow up on them with further thoughts and actions and conversations. We still notice things, we still take care of things, but we don't let them disrupt us that much. We take a step back from having our buttons easily pushed. And this works best if we practice it. Not because it's that hard, but because it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget the observer's perspective, to jump into the river and let ourselves be tossed around by the waves. And the next thing that I'll talk about are some ideas of what you can do to practice this in daily life. How to practice non-reactivity. So here are some ideas how you can practice non-reactivity. One thing you can do is before you start your day, to either before you leave your apartment or before you start work, or even before you get up out of bed, to take 5 minutes to consciously observe the stream of your thoughts, emotions, urges, impulses, and just observe it without judging it, without clinging to it, without wanting to react in any kind of way, observing it and letting it flow. If you do that regularly, this way of observing your emotions and thoughts becomes closer to you, also in the busyness of daily life. You can also practice in the busyness of daily life, and that could, for example, be done by setting an alarm. And whenever that alarm goes off, to take 5 minutes, and in those next 5 minutes, to consciously not react to things that don't absolutely require a reaction inside and out. To observe what's going on, but really be very conscious about what you want to react to. For example, if a colleague walks by and mumbles something and you're curious what the person mumbled, let them just pass by without asking. Or if you remember something that you've experienced, let that memory pass by without judging it, without reacting to it or following up on it with other thoughts. What is another way of practicing it that is even harder is by taking some time to read something, listen to something, watch something, and observing your reactions and consciously not following up on those reactions, or trying to react as slowly and minimally as possible, to just let the information flow through you without allowing it to stir up a lot of things inside of you. For example, you could walk by a newspaper stand, and before you start reading, remind yourself of what you want to do, and that is not overreact. And then read some headlines and let that information pass through you without it creating a storm inside of you. Also, what is helpful is to, in general, take a lot of breaks to increase the intentionality in your life. Whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to make a decision, if you want to give someone an answer, take a break, even if it's really short. And make sentences like, let me think about it, go-to sentences. That can really decrease the impulsivity of the mind and its overactivity. I wish you lots of success in practicing this. Remember to subscribe if you want to stay in contact. And like always, you're very welcome to share your experiences with non-reactivity in the comment section. And take good care of yourself. Stay calm, stay mindful, and non-reactive.